Erica is here. She is my friend, and I'm really excited. Let me tell you a bit about her. She is an advanced placement art and design and art history educator. Um, in cannot remember the name of the school. Erica, you can tell us the name of the school system that you work for. But she's wonderful, very enthusiastic person, and enthusiastic about all she does in her art, in her personal work, and in the teaching that she does. She is inspired by fresh perspectives and boundless creativity of her students. She has a multidisciplinary approach to her artwork, and she delves into the beauty often overlooked in the everyday. She finds profound value in slowing down, observing the subtle beauty that surrounds us. She also draws inspiration from the structure and tactile nature of bookmaking. She explores themes of repetition, mixed media, and assembly, and her work playfully challenges conventional notions of the book form while honoring its inherent qualities. So she'll tell us a little bit more about her personal work. But today, I think what's really exciting is that we're going to have a little art history lesson, which we rarely do for our talks here. And we're going to be talking about Victorian collage, which is amazing. I love it. Welcome, Erica. Thank you so much for being here.
Thank you so much for the invitation. I'm excited.
Oh,
Okay.
excuse me, just one moment. We will have all questions at the end. You can post them in the chat um, as we go. You can post them in the chat, or you can just wait until the end and speak aloud your question. Sorry about that, Erica.
That's okay.
Go ahead.
Okay, so I'm going to share my screen. All right. Is everybody seeing my screen? Can I just get a thumbs up?
Yes.
Okay. All right. Okay, so as Lorraine said, I am an AP Art and Design and AP Art History teacher. I teach at Parsippany Hills High School in New Jersey. And today we are going to discuss women and collage. Oh, I'm sorry. I was trying to get rid of the chat, and now are you looking at me?
Yep,
We're
we can.
seeing both you and
There we
your
go. That's better,
screen.
right? Okay.
Yes, all is
So
well.
we are going to discuss women and collage, in particular, collecting and repurposing. And today's topics that we are going to cover are the origins of collage, which may not be what you originally thought. We're also going to cover some contemporary female collage artists. We'll discuss what defines collage, collecting and repurposing in collage, and also process as a collage and mixed media artist. So the artists that we will look at, and also I'll discuss my process as a collage and mixed media artist. So a common misconception is that the origins of collage started with the Cubists, particularly Picasso and Braque. But we actually see evidence of collage from much farther back in history, starting with ancient Chinese poets. Traditionally, these poets would use black ink on paper, and we see evidence of them inking these poems on paper and then taking individual pieces of paper and pasting them down onto scrolls. So those are actually the first examples that we see of collage. And then in Gothic Europe, we see examples of collage on illuminated manuscripts where monks were using gold leaf on vellum and applying it to the paper. But what I would like to specifically talk about, which is a much lesser known example of collage, is collage from Victorian times. And where that originated from was with the advent of photography. So I'm going to show you some examples of Victorian cabinet cards. And what these were basically portraits of aristocratic people from Victorian times. And what was traditional at the time was if you were to visit someone in a social setting, you would bring one of these portraits with you and you would hand it to whoever you were visiting. So women at the time would actually collect these and they would have many of them. And what they would typically do was they would actually cut them up and they would place them into these collage settings that they would create. And this was considered an acceptable pastime for women. It would be something like needleworking or learning a foreign language or playing an instrument. but they were able to display wit and artistic talents, except it was within their domestic parameters, right? It was something that they were allowed to do. And then when they would create these collages, they would actually collect them into albums and they would serve as conversation pieces when they would have social gatherings. They would be able to sit around the fire or sit around a table and look at them and discuss them. So this is an example by Lady Filmer. She's actually one of the artists from the time that we have most collage examples from. She's the one in the foreground in the black dress. Right behind her is a photograph of her husband leaning on the pink table. But what's interesting is if you look all the way on the right of the image, that's actually a photograph of the Prince of Wales. And what we know from history is that they actually exchanged letters with each other daily. And there's a lot of speculation that they probably had a relationship. There's also speculation that one of her children may have been the Prince of Wales' child. So this is something that was an acceptable pastime, but the artists, these females who didn't have a lot of freedom in their lives, were able to dictate who inhabited the scene and how those people would be depicted. So Lady Filmer is making the choice of who she's looking at in this collage. So even though their lives were pretty sheltered, these collages gave them a lot of freedom about making choices. And we'll see examples here in the next work we're going to look at. So this is Woman in a Room with Hanging Heads, and this is based on a folktale called Bluebeard, where the story is that this man marries many women, and every new wife that he marries, he cuts off her head and he hangs it in this sealed room in the basement. And the scene we're looking at here is the newest wife discovering the room in the basement. So whoever this unknown artist is very clearly has a skill with watercolor and ink, understands perspective, right? She's using all of these skills that she's learned, but she's also, making choices. She's deciding which of these cabinet cards, who's the lady is that she's cutting the head off of, and she's hanging on the wall. So she's able to make these artistic decisions and able to express herself in this collage that she's creating. And that leads us to the next work titled Mixed Pickles. And this is by Lady Yarborough. Funny enough, Lady Filmer is actually included inside this jar. And Lord Yarborough is on the top. He's the one holding the fork, like picking out the people from inside. And Mixed Pickles is actually a reference to a game from the time. Mixed Pickles was a game where everybody who was at the gathering would write a word on a piece of paper. Everybody would stick a piece of paper inside of the jar, and then somebody would pick a piece of paper out, and you would have to come out with a silly sentence. And what's interesting about that is it's a game that sounds very Dada-esque, yet we're in the late 1800s. And this drawing itself, or drawing slash watercolor itself, also feels very surreal. So it's kind of funny to see this example from the Victorian times that feels very Dada, feels very surreal, yet it's coming from a Victorian woman. And speaking of surreal imagery, that's going to lead us into the next artist that we're going to talk about, and that is Merit Oppenheim. Merit Oppenheim was born in Germany and raised in Switzerland. Her grandmother was a children's book illustrator, so that definitely exposed her to a lot of whimsy and creativity growing up. She moved to Paris when she was 18 and immediately surrounded herself with the surrealists like Giacometti and Arp. And she was having breakfast with Picasso and his girlfriend Dora Maar one day, and she wore a bracelet to that breakfast. And it was a bracelet that she made, covered in fur. And Dora Maar said to her, "You can cover anything in fur these days." And that gave her an idea. She looked at her teacup, and that led us to a very well-known piece of art titled Object. Now, I included this work for several reasons. It's definitely considered to be an ultimate surrealist sculpture. And I think it's important when discussing collage to include sculpture because collage can also often be interpreted as something that is cut paper that is on a flat surface, right? But collage, I believe, is something that is collected and repurposed, and that can be something that is flat, two-dimensional, or something that is sculptural, three-dimensional. So Merit Oppenheim is toying with our senses. She's collecting these everyday materials and putting them in these unreasonable situations to really make us feel uncomfortable. This is actually an artwork that I teach in my AP Art History class. It's always really interesting to me to see how teenagers react to this work. It often turns into an adjective in the classroom when they see something that they don't like or it makes them feel uncomfortable. They say that they have furry cup vibes. When this work was made, it was immediately scooped up by MoMA. It is still on display there, and it's definitely one that I try and go visit every time I am there. Now, this work was a sensation when it came out, and Merritt Oppenheim really could have taken that and decided to just cover every work she created in fur, but she didn't. She really pushed the boundaries, and her work is actually quite varied. It doesn't all look like this. And that leads us to her next work titled My Nurse, which feels very appropriate to be looking at on November 21st. So it's very different than Object, but there are a lot of similarities in her playing with our senses, in playing with the idea of hard and soft, with hard and delicate, with femininity and domesticity. It's really interesting, this idea of the very delicate paper on the edges of the sharp points of the shoe, the bound rope around the feminine high heel. I feel like this is a work that we could talk about for a very long time. Um, and I don't know, maybe we will. Maybe we'll talk about it after. But this was in 1936, recreated again in 1967. And that brings us to our last work by Merritt Oppenheim, 1985. This was created shortly before she passed, and this is titled Glove. And again, playing with our senses, right? A glove, something made to conceal and protect our hands. But when you look at the decorative element on the outside of it, it's thinking about something that if you were to turn your hand inside out and reveal it, you would be thinking about delicate veins that our blood flows through, right? We're also looking at this positive and negative idea of the page and the delicateness of the paper, and then the glove being flipped upside down in a photograph underneath. She's always playing with our senses, this idea of feminine, this idea of sculpture, and also this fun play on fashion, right? She's making these intentional choices about what she's collecting and she's repurposing. And that leads us into our next artist who takes a very different approach about collecting. And that is Candy Jernigan. I have to give a shout out to Lorraine for introducing me to this artist. I was not familiar with her until Lorraine told me about her. And her idea of collecting is very different. Her idea of collecting is about evidence. It's about collecting whatever she comes across in her daily life, in her travels. She was known for literally moving around the world with a large bag and always collecting. It could be a dead bird, it could be cigarettes, it could be food, or literally smears of food on a piece of paper. So as you can see here, there's a piece of bread, there's a tag, there's a page from a book, there's a stamp from her travels, whatever is showing evidence of her life. And I think that's really interesting to think about because whether you're creating something so simple as including a chunk of bread or you're creating a really beautiful, elaborate oil painting, isn't all of our art really just evidence of what we're trying to show the world, what we're feeling, right? That's what all art is. So here we're looking at what I would say is probably one of her most well-known works. She's actually not that well-known of an artist. She was kind of an underground New York artist. She was a set designer and a New York-based artist from the 80s. Sadly, she died pretty young, I think at 39 of cancer. So this is titled Found Dope, and it is exactly what it's titled. This is all drug paraphernalia that she found outside on the sidewalk from her apartment. Remember, we're in the Lower East Side during the 1980s in New York City. This was all arranged on a board and was originally presented at a neighborhood meeting as proof of what was happening outside of her apartment. At the time, it was actually almost confiscated by the police at this neighborhood meeting. So this also could be a really interesting conversation. Is it art, right? Or is it just paraphernalia spread out on a board? I would argue that it is art. She, first of all, is trying to say something with what she's placing on this board, and also she's making artistic decisions about how she's laying it out. You know, the linear choices that she's making, the positive and negative space in how she's laying it down. I would also say that it's laying the groundwork for the future work that she creates. And here's an example here. This is Travel Series Part 6, Roman Artifacts. So you can see how Found Dope absolutely influences this future work. So clearly this is a mixed media, drawing slash painting, but it's laid out in a very similar fashion to Found Dope. So originally it was a collage, and then she translates it into a drawing slash painting. But her line work is just so beautiful. I mean, her drawing, it just has such a frenetic energy. It almost feels like the objects are vibrating. Look at those packs of gum. They just like, I don't know, they make me wiggle because they feel like they're wiggling. It's really such a shame that she passed so early because I just would have loved to see where her work could have gone from these pieces that she was creating. And then the last work of hers that we'll look at here is Sign in Truck Stop. This is from 1989, where she's combining collage, drawing, and painting. And this one's a lot quieter than the previous works, but also really beautiful and really intentional. The painting reminds me of a Polaroid. The drawing is very delicate. We're still incorporating collage here. And then these little like swatch marks on the bottom left remind me of a Pantone palette, like something you would see on the edge of a cereal box or any kind of printed packaging box. And I'm not sure if that's intentional, but it does kind of feel like a little wink or a nod to traditional like advertising packaging. And that leads us to our next collector, collage artist, Joanne Quick to See Smith. And she's a collector, and what she's trying to collect are the positive and negative ways in which her culture is portrayed in society. Joanne Quick to See Smith is a Native American. She was born onto a Flathead reservation in Montana, and she was the first Native American artist to have a retrospective of her work at the Whitney in 2023. And Lorraine and I were actually fortunate enough to go together to go see that. She combines Indian storytelling, social commentary, and modern art techniques to address critical issues facing Native Americans and contemporary American life. And she often incorporates the map and language into her work. So the first work we're looking at here is Indian, Indio, Indigenous. So you can see abstract expressionism is a big part of her work. You can see that in the way she applies paint onto her pieces, but there's absolutely always an element of collage as well. So this one doesn't specifically have the United States map, but there are elements of maps embedded into the work. You can see some topographical maps on the far left, and you can also see some road maps embedded as well. I particularly think with this one too, you can see like a reference to an abstracted landscape when you look at it from afar. And then when you look at the different drawings and you look at the different like printouts embedded in here, there are definitely positive and negative representations of Native Americans. But because what she's trying to address in her work and what I talk about a lot in my art history class is context. It's important to understand where the artist is coming from, right? She's a Native American artist who grew up on a reservation. She's addressing the issues of Native American people today in the United States. So she's addressing the generational trauma of Native Americans in the United States, but she's also addressing the fact that Native Americans still live and thrive in the United States. So she's trying to express both of those things in her artwork. And that leads us to Trade from 1992. So there's a few significant things about this work. First, 1992 is a significant year. That is the 500th anniversary of Columbus discovering America. So that title is significant. It, I think, also is a reference to the $24 trade of Manhattan to the the colonial people of Manhattan from the Native Americans in 1626, which also can be deemed as sort of a misunderstanding because Native Americans didn't really know what they were doing in that exchange because Native Americans didn't really understand what owning land meant because to them, land wasn't something that you owned. Definitely an abstract expressionist style here in terms of painting. And you can look at all of these collaged bits in the actual painting. And I know you can't see it closely, but I'll tell you that there are many positive and negative references here, right? There are positive articles about Native Americans and what's happening to them in our culture, but then there are also many negative references, negative comic book strips, negative articles here. And then hanging across the top, and I have a detail shot here that you can see, we have many symbols of mascots and games and toys of Native Americans. And I'm going to quote her here so that I can get it right. She's trying to represent harmful stereotypes that promote racism and a history of violence and erasure. Remember, her perspective, the context of the artist. Now, this is 1992. A lot of this has been addressed. We're in 2025 now, but this is the perspective of the artist. And again, it's important to understand the context. And that leads us to I See Red, also from 1992. You can see in the top left third, there's a pennant from the Washington Redskins. This is the year that they won the Super Bowl. Since then, they've become the Washington Commanders. And here you can see very clearly in the detail shot in her collage that we have included positive and negative representations of Native Americans. So we have Son of Tomahawk, a comic book, in the bottom part of the image there. And then we also have we also have Native American images here. These are from a newspaper clippings from the reservation where she lived, showing that her culture is thriving on the reservation. So just examples of her trying to show this kind of this juxtaposition of the balance of her culture still thriving in the country, but also the struggle of trying to fight against these negative representations of her culture in the country. And that leads us to the last contemporary artist that we're going to look at, Wangechi Mutu. And Wangechi Mutu is also an artist who eventually also uses the land a lot in her work and really reckons with her culture in her artwork as well. So Wangechi Mutu grew up in Kenya and she attended art school in New York City. And she refers to herself as a city girl with a nature brain. She graduated with her MFA from Yale. And when she graduated, she kind of found herself with no more art supplies, no more resources to what she needed to create art. So what she did was she found the cheapest things she could use. She started using watercolor and whatever collage materials she could find. So she would basically grab magazines and started creating these females and tried to represent the female in all of us. And she called them fierce feminine machines. So the first example here we have from the early 2000s. This is three detail shots of histology of the different classes of uterine tumors. There are actually 12 of these, but I'm just showing you three so you can see a bit more detail here. And these were collages that were built on medical pages illustrating cancers of the uterus. So if you look closely, you can see that these are actually medical pages. You can see some details and some writing on the back. And her intention is to show Western medicine's objectification of the female body. And I'm showing you these in particular because her other collages, as you'll see in the next one, are extremely detailed with watercolor, and I feel that pictures don't do them justice. And if you haven't seen her work in person, it's kind of hard to see everything that's going on. So I wanted to share these with you so you can see how she kind of breaks apart the body and puts it back together. She also talks about how she wants to express unsettling blends of the figure and articulate anxieties of living in the body of a Black African woman. So you can see how she's taking different parts of the female body and using them to express the female body, but then using parts that don't actually make sense and put them back together. And then these areas that look like hair are actually black fur. So if you were to see it in person, it would also have texture. And that leads us into lizard love. So this is what I'm talking about, where there's a lot going on here that seeing it in person would be a lot more tactile. These are on Mylar, so they're almost kind of see-through. They're very large. They're like 6 feet tall. And they also have glitter on them. So if you ever have an opportunity, if you haven't seen her work in person, please do, because if you're a collage artist, you need to see her work in person. These are really extraordinary. There's a really large series of these collage works on Mylar, and this is the time when she was grabbing everything she could. She was using National Geographics, fashion magazines, porno magazines, whatever she could get her hands on, combined with watercolor to create these really large scale women. And I'm going to use her words because she's very good with language. These female creatures that she was creating were distorted but strangely beautiful, frightening and violent, otherworldly and alluring. And she talks about how on the female figure we project desire and distaste, divinity and decrepitude, belonging and loss. So kind of this juxtaposition, right? This good and bad. We want to admire, but we also want to hate the female figure and how she feels that and how she also understands that she projects that as well. And that's what she's expressing through her art. So Mutu found a lot of success early in her career and a little later in life decided that she wanted to return home to Kenya. So she returns home to Kenya, she builds a studio, and when she's there, she decides that she wants to start exploring Africa. And when she's in Africa, she starts exploring these ancient caves and she starts to really feel connected to her roots. And she decides that she wants to work in sculpture. And what she does is she takes all of these collage materials that she's collected over her time as an artist, all of these magazines, all of these papers, and she beats them down into a paper pulp and turns them into a paper clay. And she combines that paper clay with soil from Kenya, from her homeland. And she uses that paper clay to start building these giant female sculptures. And she calls them sentinels. And there's a series of them. I was fortunate enough to see them at the New Museum a few years ago in the city. And she actually calls them giant earth queens, right? So she builds them and she actually embeds these materials that she also collected from Kenya, like wood, shells, feathers. And they look like these old trees. They're really grounded. She calls them soldiers guarding the earth. And they feel motherly, they feel strong, they feel calm. They don't feel conflicted like the earlier collages. They feel like they're here to protect us. It doesn't feel like anybody is judging them. You know, they are looking out for us. And I feel that that really brings this women and collage idea full circle, that these are the ones that are looking out for us and are protecting us. So in doing this talk, you know, and in wrapping it up, it really made me think about, you know, what are women here to do? What is our purpose in collecting and repurposing? And this is where I landed. So women collage artists are called to collect and repurpose in order to challenge social norms, explore and expose femininity, redefine ourselves in the context of history, show evidence of our existence, heal generational trauma, and empower what it means to be a woman. And that leads me into talking a bit about my own work. Oh, I forgot. I apologize. Though I have some suggested readings and resources, if you are interested in any of those artists or their work, I encourage you to check out some of these books or these links with some videos of the artists talking about their own work. Okay, so I have three series that I'm going to talk about of my own work. They're different, but they also relate to each other a bit in process and in how they kind of lead into one another. So the first series I'll talk about is my home series. As I said, I'm a full-time teacher. I am a mother, and it's hard to find time to create artwork. So when my children got a little bit older, in 2015 was when I was able to really start to get serious about um, taking time for my own personal work. And that started with the home series. So here is a very simple work. It is a print. You're looking at the clubhouse here. I live in a lake community, beautiful nature-filled area that inspires a lot of my work. And this is a combined print and collage. And this is something that I really enjoyed doing and eventually turned into a commission type work that I continue to this day. And as I continued to do this, they started to become much more elaborate. So it's a combined mixed media work of printmaking, collage, and mostly colored pencil on handmade paper. And I have a friend who's a realtor who's been commissioning these now and has been pushing me to also include a background. So now I've also been including digital media as well with these works. And these are some of my most recent of this series. And I really enjoy creating these. I enjoy capturing somebody's home and creating like this little capsule for them because it's a lot more meaningful than a photograph. And that leads me into something very different, but the process is actually very similar. And that's my rifle series. And this series was from 2017 to 2023. So here you're looking at a small work. This I actually created in March of 2020, right at the start of lockdown. I was getting outside as much as I could. I had very small children, trying to teach online, trying to get them through school online. And I was painting with gouache on black paper whenever I got the chance. So that's what you're looking at here. This is a leaf painting on black paper. I couldn't tell you where I found this woman, but I very much resonated with her. So in 2017, I had started the rifle series. I was kind of playing around with the idea. I have a lot of anxiety about gun violence. I was a senior during Columbine. I live in New Jersey, but it really impacted me. I had family in the Sandy Hook shooting, and I'm a teacher in high school. So lockdowns and how to address an active shooter is something that's discussed very regularly. I have children in school, so it's just something that's on my mind often. And we are artists, and when we are anxious about something, we make art about it, right? So in 2017, this catalog arrived in the mail. I have no idea how I ended up on this mailing list, but I did. And it just seemed like a sign that I needed to push forward with this artwork. So when I started this work and I started these prints, I created them on those papers, that catalog. And I used the same exact process for printing the houses for printing the rifles. So I was creating these semi-automatic rifles and I was printmaking. I often work in repetition. It's just my process. It's also realistic for me that when I have a big bulk of time, I will create a lot of work and then just set it aside so that the next time I have a big chunk of time, I can do something with that work. So here are the rifles. And then this was the first piece that I created from that. And this is titled Tinkering. So these are mobiles and they hang. They're small, they're delicate, they're brightly colored. And again, context, right? If I didn't tell you what my anxieties were, if I didn't tell you what this work was about, the first time it showed, it was hanging in the window of a gallery. So if you were to walk past it on the street, you wouldn't really know what it was about. So it really was meant to spark thought and spark conversation because you would be like, oh, what's that? And then you would look at it and be like, oh, those are semi-automatic rifles. Interesting. So really meant to spark thought and meant to start conversation. Another example here, this is static tinkering. This one's made out of porcelain, also tiny. Once I started working in encaustic, I was exploring collaging them into the encaustic. And this was a little bit later. I took those porcelain ones that I made and I pressed them into silicone and started making the rifles out of chocolate. I also had printed fabric with the rifles on it and was playing around with making different things out of fabric. And eventually it was time to retire the rifles. It was time to move on. And, after COVID, after lockdown, I lost my way a little bit. I was not really sure where I was going to go. And I had a friend who I went to a teacher residency at SCAD in Savannah with, and she had gone to Vermont with Lorraine for her encaustic retreat in 2021. And she strongly suggested that I go. And I said, but I don't even know anything about encaustic, and I'm not sure that that's for me. And she said, it doesn't matter, just go. So I did. And I'm so glad that I did because I fell in love with encaustic. And I was very inspired by Lorraine's instruction and by the environment. And that really led me into my most recent works. So when I was there in 2022, we were really focusing on photography and collage. So these are some of the photographs that I took in 2022, and they're really vital to my practice now. So talking about collecting and repurposing, these images are from 2022. We made them high contrast, black and white. I still use them in my work today, and you'll see how they show up in my present work. So this is us in the workshop. These are some works that I created in 2022. I'm still figuring out encaustic, but I'm really liking the layering of the medium and being able to embed the collage into the work. But what I was taken most by with the encaustic, because at the end of the day, I'm a printmaker, was mono printing, laying out a lot of wax and placing the paper into the wax and seeing what would happen when I pulled the paper up. So kind of some randomness to it. Because then I could use those papers in my collage. So when I came home from Vermont, I started monoprinting, and that led to a few works that year. This was titled Other Nature. I was cutting these into tiny houses. This was for the New Jersey Arts Annual. It was addressing global warming at the Jersey Shore. So this was actually a show in Atlantic City. And then this was around the time that I also created the rifles that were embedded into that accordion book that hung on the wall. And I had such an extraordinary time and just felt so inspired when I was in Vermont in 2022 that I went back in 2023. Shout out to my husband for supporting me and my family for making that happen. And I went back and I continued to push the medium and figure it out more and find out where I was going to go next. And I created some more paintings while I was there. I was continuing to figure out how to play with the texture. You can see those images are still embedded. They're deep in there. It's kind of hard to see them, but those black and white photos are there. And when I came home, I was still playing around with those shapes. I was on the lake. I was finding those shapes in my lake community at home, thinking about abstracting the landscape, but I kept coming back to the monoprint. So again, when I pull monoprints, just like when I print, I do about 100 at a time. And I kept coming back to those abstract shapes, and I started to think about the rifles. I started to think about the positive and the negative space and about how I would thread them and hang them. And I started to think, well, what if I did that with landscapes? What if I stepped away from the rifles, but I started to play around with that idea and do it with the landscapes? And that led me into my more recent work. So this is mirroring and magnifying, playing around with the positive space. So the landscape shapes are the positive, but also when you hang them, I was creating landscape shapes in the negative. And when you see these in person, you can also see on the wall, the shadows would also create landscape shapes. And then I was definitely inspired by Mutu. These pieces of wood that I would collect from the lake across the street from my house. I would dry them, clean them, and paint them. And that's where these mobiles hang from, are from wood that I collect. And this is it hanging at Hunterdon Art Museum. So I wanted to continue to push this further. This is a blurry photo, I apologize, but I wanted to keep layering, right? So what would happen if I drew on top of the monoprints? So I continued to play with this idea. This is Lifeline, and you can see I'm starting to add texture to it, right? So now I have added texture on top of the monoprints. This is Controlled Chaos, same idea, but starting to play around with what happens if I start to combine them together and stitch them together instead of just hanging them. And then I started to bring back those photographs again, and I wanted to play around with the idea with layering them with the monoprints. So now I'm getting this real sense of depth. When I'm monoprinting, I'm making sure that I'm using this really thin rice paper, right? And I'm making sure that I'm leaving space so that these black and white photographs can show through the areas that are see-through, right? I'm also drawing on the black and white images, and I'm drawing on top of the encaustic. So there's a lot of depth here. And again, repetition. I created over 100 of these once I started making them. And these led into my next work, which was another book. It was an accordion book titled Scroll, and this was from 2025. So this is an accordion book. This is it here closed. This is it slightly open, and this is it hanging from the wall. And then I have an image here just so you can kind of get a better shot of it. This is my college friends visiting it a couple weeks ago, actually, which was very full circle for them to see since they were the ones that used to see me spread out on a dirty dorm room floor trying to create artwork. This work I'm very proud of. It has a double meaning, scroll being, like an ancient scroll, something that you would very slowly open and contemplate and meditate and look through, as opposed to what we do now, scroll with our finger through our phone and we can't even remember what we looked at 15 seconds ago. But I hope that people who see this in person, it is a very meditative experience. Collecting and repurposing, these are those hands. They're actually garden gloves that I photographed that keep coming back up in my work from 2022 in Vermont. But you can see how much layering I've gotten now with the encaustic and those black and white photos and the drawing. There's a lot of depth here now in the collaging and the layering. So when I made this work, I ended up with a lot of leftover pages and or pieces, I should say. And I knew that I was going to use them for something else, but I really wasn't sure what yet. I kind of set them aside, and that was in early summer 2025. And in July, I lost a friend unexpectedly. She passed away, and I knew that I wanted to create a work to honor her. And eventually, I landed on that I wanted to use the bird as the shape in that work. So I started to find the silhouette of the bird, and I started to use that shape and started to cut it out of these pieces. So that's where I started. And what's wild is when I started to put this slideshow together and I was kind of going through my archives to find all of these photographs, I started finding these images of birds that honestly I kind of forgot about. And it just goes to show this idea of collecting and repurposing, how you have this like subconscious archive in your body and in your brain of these images that you don't even realize are there. So this is an image of a bird from 2015 that I had photographed when I was at a teacher residency at Stockton University. And when I was there, I had photographed this dead bird on the ground because it had sparked a memory of when I was at undergrad. And I had a professor who took us outside to draw, and she saw a dead bird on the ground and she brought us all around it. And she said, "Look at this dead bird. It's so beautiful. Everybody should draw it." And I don't know, I was 18 or 19. And I said, I just was thinking, like, this lady's so weird. Why is she making us look at this dead bird and draw it? But in hindsight, in 2015, I thought, wow, that is really beautiful. And I should have appreciated it at the time. And I didn't, and I wrote all about it, about the beauty of it. And I took this photo. And in 2018, I eventually used that photo for a mobile that I created of this bird. And, now in 2025, I had decided to use that bird to honor my friend. And I hadn't even thought of these past works that I had created. So just an example of like subconsciously collecting and repurposing. So, on the backs of those sheets where I was cutting out the silhouette, it was blank because on the accordion scroll, I didn't need a back. It was just red. So I created my own collage. I started hand drawing inspired by different textures and different things I had seen in nature around my neighborhood. I was kind of a little bit walking around like a zombie for a few weeks, to be honest, and I was just carrying my sketchbook and drawing as much as I could, and that's where these marks came from. And that's what the backs of these became. And that ultimately led to what the backs of the birds were. And then also in the fall, as I was putting this work together, I had taken my students out, my AP Art and Design students out into the woods to draw. And I started to blind draw leaves, and that ultimately I brought into the computer and started to reproduce into different colors. And those became the bottoms of the pieces for the birds. So a lot of collecting here for what I needed for this final work. And this is titled Careful. And this is my most recent work. I'm extremely proud of it. And I think it is a real symbol of my process in my last few years of what I've been creating as an artist. And it also says a lot of things that I wasn't able to say in my loss and in my grieving. And these are two detail shots here. And you can see a lot of that concealing and revealing. You can see the hand-drawn work being collected and repurposed. And that's the last work that I'm sharing with you today. So I am happy to answer any questions that you have. But when the meeting is over today, because I'm a teacher and because I can't help myself, I have an optional writing assignment for you. I would suggest that you set a timer for 5 minutes and write continuously. And it's okay in those 5 minutes if your response trails into something else. I would be curious to know how you define collage, and also what do you collect and repurpose in your work? It can be anything, physical or otherwise. Thank you.
Thank you. Wow. That was a lot of wonderful information and history, and your work is, I love this last piece. It's just fantastic. Thank you so much. Let's see. I'm sure there's questions, and and other people that want to comment. So
We have some questions from the chat. So we'll take those first, and then I guess we can open it up for more spontaneous questions. Elsie Fiore related those portraits at the very beginning to early artist trading cards.
Yeah, they actually remind me too of like being in middle school and sh like sharing your picture with your friends, like writing your name on the back and giving it to your friends.
And Penny Fine asked, do you share your work with your students? If so, what is their response?
I do share my work with my students. I do because I like them to know that I practice what I preach. I actually did this talk to my students today for
Great.
practice.
Sylvia wants to know what kind of paper are you using for the monoprints? Rice paper?
Japanese rice paper.
Oh,
And
wow.
this is from me, a particular type of the rice paper, because there are tons
It-
of
I
rice
can
papers
look it
now.
up. It's on Amazon. I'll look it up and get back to you.
Yeah, please,
Okay,
because
That's
I
fine.
have used rice paper. Sometimes it's not, some is sturdy, some is not.
Yeah, totally. I know what you mean. I'll look it up.
wow, here's something. I usually don't read just comments that are praised, but this is, wow, this is the best CAA presentation I've ever attended. Powerful and inspiring. Thank you. That's from Elizabeth Evans.
Oh, thank you. Appreciate that.
And what glue do you use? Elizabeth also asks.
So I actually use, it's called dry tack. It's like a sticker paper.
Really? I have to write
Yeah.
that down. Sorry. Dry tack. Where do you get it?
You get it online.
Online?
It's
Okay.
actually like a industrial sticker paper that they put on cars.
Great. Thank
I
you.
learned that from my grad school printmaking professor.
Okay,
Hmm.
those are the questions from the chat.
Now, also, don't forget the rice paper. What kind of rice
Oh,
paper?
right.
Yeah, I have it. I don't know if the label's on it. If not, I'll have to look it up.
Okay, thanks.
Lorraine, do you know? I feel like I got it from your recommendation.
Is it the
Glue?
Sumi?
The glue or the paper?
The paper.
Paper is just well, what I teach when I teach it, it's just plain rice paper. Different I use different grades of rice paper. There
Okay,
actually is
it's
no
not a
such
specific.
thing
All
as
right, I'll
rice
look it up.
paper.
I know.
Apparently, it's mulberry paper, but it's like typing paper. Yeah, Hiromi has it. But I buy the specific rice paper, the cheap stuff on Amazon, and
Hmm.
then I get from Hiromi and other paper making suppliers. I get masa paper,
That's it.
MASA.
Yeah.
Yeah,
That's
and it's a heavier version, and it holds up to many, many layers of paint.
That's
The cheap stuff doesn't. It's just, pretty much a one and done. Maybe you can do another layer on top of it, but those are just for that kind of paper is just for experiments and things like that. Somebody had asked about the retreats in Vermont. They are my retreats. They are called Vermont Encaustic Retreats, and they are on my website. I'll put a link in the chat.
You should go.
I loved having Erica there, and thank you so much for talking about them. They are for everybody, they seem to be a very important time in their work. It changes a lot of work or seems to help a lot of people to kind of communicate or commune together.
Mhm.
It's always a wonderful time for people to either, you can stay by yourself or you can stay with the group and just talk about art for an entire week while having your meals made for you,
Exactly.
having a place to sleep, and having a studio at your fingertips most of the time while you're there. I do encourage people to sleep, but so thank you. I'll put the link in the chat to the cheery treats.
I just dropped the rice paper link in the chat also.
Oh,
Thank
great.
you.
Yeah, thank you. Thank you. Any questions?
Yeah,
Any
how
other?
about the Sumi paper? Do you use that at all? SUMI? It's
I
another.
just use that paper that I dropped in the chat because it works really well for me. I've actually tried different papers out of curiosity, but I haven't found anything that I like as much because it's durable and it's transparent, and that's what I want. So when I want it to be thicker, like when I'm hanging the work, I'll just mount it to something else on the back.
Great, thank you.
Yeah.
Hmm.
Okay, do we want to open up for spontaneous questions now? I'll have to go to gallery view so that we can see who's talking.
Okay. Let's see where we are here. I'm busy with that, copying that link.
It'll be in, by the way, the chat and the video will be on the website sometime later this afternoon.
Okay, let's see. Let's put us back on the view of the whole gallery. Okay, there I am. There we are. So yes, and anything else do we want to discuss with Erica? Any other questions or?
It was just a great presentation.
Wonderful, wonderful.
Yes.
Thank you. I appreciate that.
It was
Yeah,
awesome, Erica. Thank you.
educational.
So,
Really
yeah, but and so complete and succinct. That's that was special.
I'm sure your students love you.
Well, I hope so.
Yeah. So thank you very much again. As if there's no one else, we'll
I
just
think
move on.
Elizabeth has her hand up.
Oh,
Elizabeth.
Elizabeth, please unmute yourself, honey.
Yeah,
Unmute.
thank you. Thank you. Yeah, I was just while I was listening, and thank you, that was fantastic. While I was listening, I looked up dry tack, and so it looks like it's something that you have to use heat with. Is that correct, or is it just the one I'm looking at? Maybe I need to do some more research.
Yeah, you know what? Let me find the link also, and I'll drop it in.
Okay, thank you. I appreciate that. I'm always struggling with glue.
I know. Yeah, that's why I like it because it's not wet. Yeah.
Wow. Okay,
Mm.
thank you so much.
Okay.
I think
Any other questions?
Yeah, Amelia has her hand up.
I wanted to know if you were exhibiting at the Book Arts exhibit this year at MAD.
And that bird work is actually the work that's going to be in
Oh,
it.
good, great. I look
Oh,
forward to
good.
seeing that.
Thank you.
And more. Anyone else? Well, as you can tell, it was wonderful, Erica.
Thank you.
Everybody has really enjoyed it and loved it. So thank you so very much. I'm sure that we'll have a lot of people tuning in to the recording and getting to hear your wonderful presentation. So once again, thank you. And thank you, Lorraine, for bringing her to us.
Of course. Thanks, Erica. I think,
Go ahead.
never
No,
mind. I see a hand up, but I think it's an old hand.
Yeah.
Oh, okay.
So, anybody else? Okay. Well, we'll move on then. Suzanne, I suppose you would like to see if there's any other of the new members that would like to make an announcement of their talk about themselves or.
Yeah, I don't know if we want to take a little short break.
Oh,
And
do we?
maybe?
Well, unless if
I
there
don't
are
know.
if there are other people that want to talk, we'll take a short break. If not, we can maybe conclude.
I know that
I
Paul
think,
Newman
yeah,
wants
Paul
to
Newman
speak,
wanted to
and
talk.
I don't know about Georgia. She's a new member. I don't know if she's still here, if she wants to speak. I don't know if Muffy Clark Gill, I don't know if you were here when I welcomed you. I didn't see your name until after I was through, so we're asking new members to, if they want to share some information about yourself. And also, anybody who's here who would like to announce after our new members speak, any shows that they may be in or resources for our members. We always welcome that. Or
Both from our board and from our
yeah,
membership.
so it's all, I mean, that's part of what these meetings are about, is to be able to share with one another. And so, all right. So do we want to take a break or just go on?
Keep going.
Keep
Go
going.
on? Okay,
keep going.
I don't think
Okay,
we'll be much
so
longer.
Paul, you're on.
We can't hear you.
We can't
Can't
hear you, even though you're not muted. We can't hear you.
We can't hear you
Can we get
speaking.
more volume, maybe?
You
Can
have
you
your
hear-
speaker on?
Because you don't show being muted, but we can't hear you.
That happens a lot when you don't have the microphone set, or you have an earpiece in or something like that, possibly.
Are you on a computer that has oh
Use the
no.
computer audio.
No.
Did he just click off? Oh,
No, he's here,
Oh, no.
but he just is frustrated.
Yes, that's a
Wants to share.
Oh, that's a shame.
Well, we're happy to have you with us.
Keep Paul, keep looking and seeing what if you can find a way to connect, and we'll come back to you.
maybe next time too. Maybe.
Yeah,
Yeah.
but check it out while we'll go on with something. Connecting to auto.
Okay, so Georgia, I see you here. Do you want to I don't know if you're able to let us see you or if we can hear you, if you want to introduce yourself.
Georgia,
Georgia, she's muted,
and no video.
no video.
Here she is.
Oh, there you are.
Hi, Georgia.
Hi.
She
So,
popped up.
yeah, I'm really thrilled to be part of the group, and I will as I get you to know the group and the art and everything, I'll see how my art all fits into it. But I work in the arts, and I've been a curator for a really long time, and
Oh,
I'm
great.
sort of moving from fiber more into to collage. So but I do a lot of work still in the arts and a lot of curating and stuff like that.
Yeah, I was
Great.
excited because we don't have that many fiber artists. So, when I read about you, I was excited that you added that element to us too. Although some of us, of course, I've even used fiber in my collages, my analog collages. But
Yeah, I'm excited to be part of the group and to get to know everybody. I know
Welcome.
some of you from the San Fernando Valley Arts Center where I was a juror, and I knew Susie Gesundheit really well and stuff. So
Good.
um
yeah, we
yes.
miss her so much.
Yeah, no, I know. I think of her so often. She's just such a
She was
loss.
our
There-
be all end all.
Yeah.
Who?
Susie Gesundheit.
Oh, with Susie. Oh my God. I think of her every day.
Yeah, she
Yeah.
was
So
special, but
I was in another art group with her, and I was also
She
very
was in
active.
every art group, and she saved the lives of everybody in every art group. She was amazing.
Yeah.
So we probably met you at the San Fernando Valley Arts and Cultural Center when they had their annual. Most of us were in that show.
Right.
So
So probably if we all met in person, I'd recognize you, and you'd
yeah,
Yes,
recognize
right.
me because she got me involved in that. So,
great. Well, we're happy you're here.
well, thank you.
Thanks.
Anybody
Anybody else? Anyone else? Paul, did you get connected? Oh, she can't get off the mute.
That was so sad. Well, maybe we could lip read
Oh,
or hold up a sign. Do you have an art piece that you would like to hold up and share?
put yourself back on the video. Oh, there you are.
He's in there. If you have a piece of art, you can
Put
hold
his
it up and no.
put his
All right,
website.
he's
might
gonna
get
go
that.
get,
He's getting
He's
some
gonna
more.
trying to get something. In the meantime,
Yeah.
I want to just remind
Oh,
everybody.
look, okay, he's showing, back up
Wait.
a little bit. Back up,
A little bit more.
Oh,
Go
back up a
back.
little more.
Yeah, there
That's
we can
really,
see it.
Very
that's,
good. We can see it.
Oh, that's so interesting. Is it what is it made? Oh, we can't tell.
wood, hey, wood.
Made of wood blocks, little wood blocks, little tiny pieces of wood that you all put together.
So
And made a
that
shape.
would be more like an assemblage, which I think Erica was alluding to when you get three-dimensional work. And we do have assemblage artists also
I love the
in
doing
the
this.
CAA. So that's great. It looked wonderful. Thank you. You can write us, just write a little something.
Anyway, anybody else, Suzanne, any of our other, and any, all right, if there aren't any new members that want to speak, anybody, any of you that want to say something about yourselves or announce about something happening in your life that, shows or
Or
whatever.
hold up a piece of work for us to see. SP, you are always in shows. SP does really interesting work.
Okay.
You
All
can
right. Here
see.
she is holding something up. Let's see if we can see what it
Want to
is.
unmute yourself?
Yes, everybody. I have a show at the West Hollywood Library, and it's called Angel of Compassion. And it's basically collage and also images of Elizabeth Taylor's gems. And we have all these different events, and it's going to go through May of next year. And it explains all of her husbands, their relationships, who gave her what she paid for, all of her perfumes, and all of her movies. We've had rarely seen movies of that she's shown, but it basically explains how after her passing, all of the proceeds for all of her gems went to the AIDS Foundation.
Oh, good.
SP,
SP, where is the exhibit? Where is the exhibit?
West Hollywood Library, and it's a beautiful space, and they validate for parking for 3 hours.
Wow.
And it's on San Vicente and Melrose. It's
SP,
across from the Blue Whale.
quickly
Okay.
share why you are why your collages are gem oriented.
My grandfather was a diamond cutter, and
Oh,
the gems are my muse.
Yes, good.
Your work
Well,
is
thank you.
really amazing.
Yes,
Thank
amazing.
you, everybody.
Okay. Anyone else would like to say something about their, oh yes, Elizabeth Evans.
No, you're not muted. How do I do
Hi. Oh, hi. Hey, just one sec. I've got a piece in Vancouver, Washington. Right now, it opened last Friday. It's up and through the month of November. The gallery's called Art at the Cave, and it's the show is called Rock, Paper, Scissors. So all the work is paper, rock, or cut paper. And it's a big installation. I have a picture on my phone, but I don't have a photograph of it to show you. But Art at the Cave, you can go to their website if you want. If you're interested, they have some really cool work there. And I'm really excited. I went up there last week. I took the piece up and installed it and got to go to the reception. And I'm just really excited about having a piece in a show somewhere.
Great. Congratulations.
Thank you.
Okay. Anyone else? Barbara Tabachnik.
I am just looking at my art resume and realize I'm in 3 shows and have one coming up. So rather than talk about them, I think I will just put them all in the chat. One of them actually is coming down this Sunday, and it's when the canvas speaks louder. It's a wonderful show, very large pieces, and at the Makery in downtown Los Angeles. And I'll just put it all again, put it in the chat.
Well, good. Congratulations.
Congratulations.
You're very busy showing art.
Let's see where it's chat here.
Okay, Lucy Julia Hale.
Yes.
Hi.
Hello. This has been wonderful. Thank you. I know that everybody's probably aware of the new kinds of coalitions that are of artists for the Fall of Freedom, so that there are many art groups who are putting on exhibits and doing other things because of concern about freedom of expression. So WCA, the Women's Caucus for Art, has programming that's starting from that, and also the one of the subcommittees, which is the Echo Artists Group, has the same thing. There is an exhibit that's going up. I think it's already up, that has 200 artists who have done something. They're women artists who have done something that relates to freedom of speech and supporting that. And there will be ongoing things. So look under that Fall of Freedom for all the different arts groups if you're interested in having a voice, if you are concerned about censorship and especially attacks on artists. And I know that in my own experience, I know some art teachers who have actually lost their jobs. And I did exhibit every year in the Fletcher activist artist exhibit, which was pulled, and the person who ran it was fired. Now, the overall curator and director of the museums at East Tennessee U was left in place, but it was you may have read about it in Hyperallergic, but anyway, so there wasn't an exhibit this year. The things were international and lovely, but I appreciate everybody. And so look for something to do if you're called to that activism through any of the Fall of Freedom exhibits, and look for the WCA one, which is of course a part of CAA. So I guess that's College Art Association. Yeah. So thank you, everyone. This is wonderful. I am so glad that you have allowed me to be with this group. I am in Georgia, like our other people from Georgia. I am in Cave Spring, Georgia. And my family and I, we have always been treated rather gently for the being of a different philosophy. And I think it's because they just thought we couldn't help it. But in any case, now I think, there are calls to just sick people. But I am working in my life. I have always worked for certain kinds of things that I think a lot of us share as commitments. And I appreciate being with all of you.
Well, thank you for
We're
being
happy
with
to
us.
have
We
you.
appreciate you with us and all your work. Every time you enter a show, I'm always excited to see what you have to offer. Anybody else?
Well, I might speak again. I will be showing at Gloria Delson Contemporary Arts Gallery in December, as well as the Los Angeles Center for Digital Art. I haven't submitted a piece yet, but I plan on doing it. So I don't know the name of the show, but it will be the beginning of probably December 6th through the end of December.
Good. Congratulations. Okay, someone else? Anyone else?
Carol, you've got some stuff up too.
Who, me?
Carol.
Sister Carol.
I got thrown off of my internet went out for a while, so unfortunately I missed a bunch of of Erica's presentation.
I did too.
I'm glad that it'll be videoed. And I do have a piece currently at the BG Gallery. It's take a closer look, and it's a cow organization show, and it comes down on December 2nd. So it's here for another week and a half or so, and then it's gone. And I hope to get there to see it. So far we've been rained out twice, but
tomorrow.
Hopefully, yeah. If I can get my Thanksgiving stuff organized enough, I think so. Hopefully tomorrow we'll get to see it.
For those of you who don't know, Barbara Tabachnik and Carol Blumenthal are sisters.
Yes.
With whom we cannot do without either one of them.
Exactly. Yes. At this moment, I want to thank all of our board members who work so hard, and they are so diligent at doing what they're supposed to do and beyond what they're supposed to do. We help each other so much. Everybody has each other's back. And that leads me back to say, please think about volunteering to either be an assistant or just come on the boards, see what interests you. We have positions open and our elections will be in June. So you're never alone. If you have a job to do, there's always a backup for you, the person who was doing it or someone else who knows the job, because we all kind of know each other's jobs because we've held one position or the other for years. And so please think about joining us. We would welcome you so much. Let's see if there's any. I want to also remind everybody that about our Facebook page. We have many, many members on the Facebook page. Not all of them are members of CAA, but there's a lot of good ideas and inspiration there to be found. And of course, our newsletter. Quaylin Lum is our newspaper editor, and she does a fabulous job. And you can enter and put in information about yourselves and learn a lot about what else is going on with us. Quaylin is also offered to be co-director for exhibits, co-chair for exhibits. And I'm handling that right now. We would welcome someone to come and join us, make a committee for exhibits. And now is a good time because I'm kind of going through everything with Quaylin, and it would be easy for you to jump in and learn all about helping with us. Anything else is there anybody else that would like to make any announcements or share anything with us? Okay, maybe this is the time to call the meeting to a close. Erica, thank you one more time for the beautiful presentation. My electricity went out for a minute too. I don't know why, but I want to hear everything you said again anyway. So I'm so happy that we have it recorded. And with that, we say
Happy
goodbye.
Thanksgiving.
Happy Thanksgiving, yes. Well, we won't see you in December, so happy holidays as well.
Exactly.
And then in January, we'll come back and Lorraine will be our acting pres. And so, sayonara.